Hey everyone, welcome to the Remedy This Podcast, episode 16. We are your hosts, Jay and Tempest. We have a lot of catching up to do from our last podcast. So let's get started.
Yeah, let's jump right in because we got a lot. This was our most successful video so far. So we want to go through and get some of these comments and get some of these debates out of the way.
Yeah, that sounds great.
All right, so the board.
Yeah.
We had a lot of questions and comments and from our last video. A lot of it like around parautilitarians and what it takes to be appointed director.
Yeah.
But our question is, because we've talked about this a little bit, is will the board even exist after Control Resonant? Okay, so going back to the very, very beginning, before the FBC was at the oldest house, there's no mention that I remember of there being parautilitarians. We just know that Emily and Jesse had had that conversation about how directors were appointed before the board, before coming to the oldest house.
Yeah, they had mentioned that it was, very bureaucratic. And yeah, they didn't really talk about, whether they needed any sort of paranatural abilities. It sounded like they didn't, kind of how any director is appointed.
Right. Well, my question would be, did they ever really need to have a parautilitarian director ever before coming to the oldest house? Because why would they?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that sounds like something that was a thing. That sounds like a board thing, like the board the entity that we have in the oldest house, right? So, I mean, you get directors appointed by the board and they get objects bound to them and they get all these powers, but do they really need them? What do they need them for? You know what I mean? They never really explain. The directors don't go out in the field, or at least they're not really supposed to. It's not really their job. We know Trench went out with Darling for the ordinary AWE, but most of the time it sounds like they stick around the oldest house and don't really have a need to go to battle.
Yeah, it seems like, Jessie was kind of the anomaly in that she did actually go out and, go to battle. I mean, yeah, there was Trench, when they opened up the slide projector and, he wanted to go in. They told him no. He told him to f*** off.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like the directors, they are kind of more of, the head of the oldest house. They don't really actually go out, and that's more of the ranger's job to do.
Right, and it doesn't sound like his problems and those kind of things. They're never mentioned to us. At least we don't get documents or anything that suggests that they've had these. I mean, we know that they, manifest, thresholds manifest all the time. And we're never really told what kind of threats. We know that the Rangers go out and do, what is it? Arish talked about. They go out and they measure stuff and they go into the formation and things like that. But he doesn't really say, and they go, respond to some AWEs and things like that. But they never really say anything about having had big battles going on with any thresholds or other entities coming. This is like all kind of like a brand new thing that's been happening with a mold. Started happening in the course of 4 months or something, 6 months. It was happening before Underhill came in.
Yeah.
So this is the oldest house, though. What happened at the FBC beforehand?
Yeah, we're not getting given a whole lot of information. I mean, we get a few of the ash tapes, but not a whole lot before they move to the oldest house.
Nothing that goes back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't even think he mentions directors needing any kind of powers. As a matter of fact, we do have a document. Now, here's some contradictions that are really interesting. We do have a document that we can read from part of it and show, people watching on YouTube, if you want to do that, that Ash said that the service weapon presented itself at the, what was it, a pedestal or pillar? What was it?
It was,
in the foundation. It presented itself to Northmoor in the foundation. But then this document that we have of the object of power service weapon, submarine, whatever. It says they found it in the director's room.
Yeah, that's right.
So, do you have that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read it here. So it says, when bound, the object allows parautilitarians to redacted. This object must only be bound by individuals seeking the role of redacted. The object will determine whether redacted. If rejected, the applicant is terminated. This process is dictated by the redacted, though their criteria is unknown. The object was discovered inside the oldest house in the room that is now used as the director's office.
Yeah, so contradiction number one on our list. Where did that service weapon actually appear? And how far back does... I wonder how far back even Dr. Darling's tapes go.
Yeah, I'd be curious. And, it is interesting because, Ash talks about the service weapon, like he's talking about handing out presents.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Darling talks about the service weapon too, but he doesn't... I don't remember him really saying where it came from.
Yeah.
He just mentions that it's all connected to the board and objects of power, and everything's connected to those in the house. So, so these kind of things are what makes me wonder about whether or not the director needs to be a parautilitarian. As a matter of fact, it sounds like from that document that the candidate could be, or at least the applicant, let's say the applicant, could be a parautilitarian and still be denied. Though we have never found any information or given any information of anybody that's actually been fired.
Right,
Because we have not heard anything about anyone else but Northmoor and Trench and then Jesse doing the ritual. Now, you had something interesting to say about the verbiage, fired and terminated, right?
Yeah. So when Darling talks about the service weapon, he uses the term fired, and then in the document it talks about terminated. So it doesn't explicitly say like if the person is actually killed. I mean, obviously terminated and fired could be used as,
They're interchangeable.
Yeah. They just don't have employment anymore.
Right.
So we don't really know what actually happens if they're not approved.
And I think, too, that, like, manipulation of words, like adding in the Russian roulette thing, that could be a thing. We see the thing that happens at the end of the game with, like, Jesse and Trench, and, they're, put the gun to their head or whatever, and end up dead, basically. I don't know. Hopefully YouTube doesn't take the stuff. I don't think they will. I think only certain things. But, hey, this is a video game, so come on, YouTube. But... yeah, I mean, going back though to, because this all we're coming around to the whole thing, our title in the thumbnail, what's in it, about the end of the board, basically, is that I'm wondering if we're gonna find out that the board, the manipulation, their control, is basically saying that maybe they don't need to be parautilitarians. Now, it says in the documents, but they never explain how they came to that conclusion.
Yeah, you're right. Like how we just read in the document, they say that it's unclear what their criteria is.
Exactly.
So I mean, we could have someone with absolutely no abilities, and the board could still accept them. We don't know.
Maybe the criteria is, do you have to perform the ritual in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, that very well could be it. Kind of like Trench had said in that hotline call. He's like, he picked it up almost on a dare.
Yeah. So I mean, and he also was never mentioned. It was never mentioned that he had any paranatural abilities. Some comments that we've gotten, and we'll read these comments too, talk about he was able to bind the ashtray maze and this, that, the other. Well, there are documents around the oldest house suggesting that possibly anyone can bind certain objects of power. But there's also the possibility that maybe they just look for people that are paranaturally inclined, as Langston says.
Yeah.
That could be something totally different. Like they have some type of sensitivity, some type of maybe ability, like we were talking about before, astral projection or something like that, some talent, something that they consider could be, but it's never really explicitly said how they find these people and who they send in. I mean, we know that they were raising Dylan, raising, I use that word loosely, raising him to become director. And that's interesting. This would kind of like leads us into the, is the board going to be overthrown? Is there's their downfall coming? Because you notice how they shifted gears from the board is going to appoint the director to we're going to appoint the director. Now they don't say we specifically, but it's implied that they're like, we're raising him to become director. And they decided that he wasn't fit to be director, not the board. Remember, the board has criteria, just like you read in that letter. The board has criteria, but they didn't even let it get that far.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's funny, too, because, when we talk about the prime candidates, Trench also mentions in the hotline call where he's talking about P6 and P7. He says that we're spoiled for choice. Yeah. I don't know if he's, being sarcastic there or if they actually are spoiled for choice because they have two people that they can choose from.
And it's funny because in that call, he only mentions Dylan first.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, when he says P6 and P7 were spoiled for choice, that's the only time he ever brings up P7. So it's interesting how that whole thing works. Do they get their powers through the ritual? At least their ability, like say if they're not parautilitarians to begin with, maybe they get that ability through the ritual, or maybe this is just something that the board does. Like, okay, the person that had to pick up the gun, we're going to make that person director and we're going to give them all these powers and they're going to owe their life to us because we didn't terminate them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, because they even said that, like, didn't they say to Jessie, the board, when she was doing her ritual, that if she didn't, like she could be denied or something like, I forget the exact verbiage, but that she could be, again, terminated or whatever. I don't remember exactly. If anyone listening knows, we'll have to go back. We've got the board, we've got all the collectibles, but right now it's just like escaping my memory. But yeah, so here's where I am. We've had a lot of, and we'll read these here really shortly. We've had a lot of people, say, like, basically the majority is saying that they believe that people need to be parautilitarians in order to become director. I'm kind of in the middle right now based off of our listeners. This is the great part of our podcast, is our listeners get to kind of influence how we think in a way because they have great ideas and some things we might not have thought of. So I'm kind of in the middle, but leaning more towards, I just need to know. This is just how my mind works. My mind works is like, show me the proof. We get letters that say, but it doesn't say what it's based off of.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of in that same camp too, that they at least have to be paranaturally inclined.
Even a little bit.
Yeah, even a little bit. Like, with Trench, we don't get a whole lot. I mean, yes, he was able to bind to the service weapon, use the hotline and everything. But as far as, like, say, powers go, we don't know anything about that.
Yeah, anything pre-existing, what he was able to do before.
Yeah.
We don't know that about Northmoor either. All we know is what happened to them after becoming director.
Right.
Even with Jessie. Now, we know she had, Polaris with her. That was like her kind of power within, I guess.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, Dylan, I would say that if thinking about the board the way I do, feeling the way I do about the board, thinking they're sus, shifty, not trustworthy, and probably an enemy, I would say that they wouldn't want Dylan, and I've said this before, because his powers are his own. Now, like I said, I know he was his corrupted when he said that, but even when you're his corrupted, there you don't lose all sense of self.
Yeah.
There was always something left behind. I think when he said that, he was telling the truth, that his powers are his own powers, maybe because he was bound to objects of power while they were testing him. They could have given him so many, bound him to so many, or had him bind himself to so many objects of power. That's how he became dangerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, I'm thinking, why would the board want someone that's already extremely powerful? They have nothing to offer him. You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I can see why they would want someone to have, some abilities, like with Jessie when she's in the Foundation.
to protect
them. Exactly.
Yeah.
But, if they end up being too powerful, then I'm sure the board probably fears that they'll get overthrown.
Yeah, and here's something else Dylan said, too, and he was corrupted. He said that told Jessie, the board is using you. That, the FBC, the Bureau, the board, they're using you.
Yeah. Yeah, and also makes sense with Dylan that, he could have been bound to a bunch of different objects of power. And, especially with, going back to what happened with Roberts. I mean, that was obviously before anything happened with the hiss. And describing how he ended up killing Roberts. I mean, that he's very powerful. And,
Excessive force, right?
Yep, excessive force.
It sounded pretty gruesome.
It did.
It redacted out a lot, and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But who knows how that was done? By his own hands or by his mind? We don't know.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and get to some user comments and questions, because there was a lot of good ones that have to do with this. And again, leading up to whether or not the board will eventually be overthrown or defeated.
Yeah.
Maybe they have found out already that the board isn't what they seem, that the board, that they don't need the board.
Yeah.
It's just not told to us. It's not, none of that is said in the game. Sometimes it seems like it's implied, but we'll see. So, let's go ahead and get to our first user or listener comment and question.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so before we move on, though, I would like to know from our listeners who thinks that the board could really hurt the director, terminate them, whatever, unalive them, you know what I mean? Like things that they have said, or is it just a manipulation tactic? The other thing is, I'm wondering, could the board have held their own against the hiss without Jessie's help, without anyone's help? If not, then you know that they're not as powerful as maybe they present themselves to be.
Yeah.
So we'll let the listeners chime in on that and let us know what they think, because honestly, again, I'm kind of middle of the road on that one, but I do have some ideas we'll present later. So I don't know. How about you?
Yeah. No, I have some ideas my own as well, but I am very curious to hear what our listeners have to say about that.
Yeah. Our listeners are awesome. So many smart people out there that really know this game well.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
All right. So moving on. Okay. The first comment is about the scientists. The board doesn't like any of the scientists. They didn't like Theodore Ashe Jr. as well. I think that they look at the scientists as people who could potentially subvert their will. If you look at the director Northmoor, he was completely subservient to the board. Jessie is not like that. She has her own internal monologue, and she collaborates with Polaris. Many times in her internal monologue, she doesn't trust the board. I think Jessie appointed Pope as the co-director because she trusts her. As a scientist, her decisions are based on evidence and facts, and Jessie values that. So what do you think?
Yeah, well, we definitely know that the board isn't too keen on Emily, for sure.
Yeah.
And, like...
the Snoop.
the Snoop, exactly. So as far as other scientists, I mean, it makes sense that the board wouldn't like them very much because, they are kind of a threat to them.
Well, they don't want to be understood.
Yeah, they just, yeah, like you said, they just want people to be subservient to them and
Yeah.
don't even question them. Whereas scientists, they question everything. So I can understand why the board wouldn't like them.
Right. Yeah. And we did, part of our response to this is when it comes to Emily being appointed co director, that we agree that is something the board wouldn't do.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because for the reasons we just talked about, I don't think that the board really wants to be. And who's going to understand them more than research? I mean, that's what they do, right?
Yeah.
Once they start researching into them, they're probably not going to like it much. So let's see what we got next. Another part to this comment was, technically, I don't think the board is all too happy with Jessie. She has defied them in the past, picking up that extra power in the Foundation DLC against their wishes, communicating with the former. The problem is that they had no choice. They were losing control. They needed someone who could regain it. Jessie is loyal to her own motives, which are her brother. She values Emily, and she communes with Polaris. I wouldn't be surprised if the board is working with Dylan. This is an interesting one. Dylan to undermine her, hoping he is more pliable. But for sure, the board won't appoint anyone who doesn't bind the service weapon. I'm not even sure if Dylan is communicating with the board. Maybe a rival entity.
Interesting.
So,
But yeah, no, that's a really good point. And yeah, we definitely know that the board wasn't too happy with Jessie when she did talk with Former and gave her that second power. And they kind of made that snide remark, and then Jessie comes back with, "Well, I don't like telling you telling me what I can/can't do." And but it's funny because with the hiss and then the astral plane bleeding into the oldest house and all the shit that was going on, you would think that the board would try to give Jessie all the resources that she needs.
Oh, yeah.
In order to get the job done.
Control.
Exactly.
They want her to think that it's only them that have the power to grant her the things that she needs to do her job.
Yeah.
And so then, since there was only two choices, it makes sense. So it's like, we better, we better, in order to prove that we're really in control, we better make sure we tell her that she only gets one.
Yeah. And it was kind of stupid on the board's part because, I mean, say they only give her the one power, she fails, and then, the hiss just takes over, and then the board's completely
Right, exactly. Well, the final part of this comment was, I'm pretty sure he's been brainwashed, talking about Dylan, once, and it won't be repeated. This is his redemption arc, and we are with you on that.
Oh, yeah.
So thank you for commenting. A lot of great comments here. Okay, so this is one we didn't get to respond to because YouTube was crashing on us while we were trying to reply to comments, but this one says, Trench was confirmed to be a parautilitarian as he was able to bind to the hotline, ashtray, and service weapon. You can't become director if you aren't a parautilitarian, to our knowledge. That's key, right?
Yeah.
To our knowledge, and we just talked about that. Trench mainly avoided binding or using abilities as he saw how it corrupted Northmoor, and he became mistrustful of the board. Also, the FBC did exist before they found the oldest house. The first director was just a normal dude who never, who never got to see the oldest house. It's all mentioned in the Foundation, and that is all absolutely correct. We did have, it all boils down to the same questions. We had the same question about, to our knowledge. That's a key phrase in there, to our knowledge. There's so many redactions. There's so much hidden information. There's so many things that aren't explained. And again, we are leaning more towards, at least I know I am, and Jay, you said so too, leaning more towards that, yes, they probably do need to be paranaturally inclined. But there's always a possibility, due to lack of proof, only documentation, with no proof backing it up necessarily, that, they're just going by that. They're just really going by that, and that's all we have to go by. So we just have to, probably a lot like them, just have to say, okay, that works, that's good enough, we'll take it, and not question it. And I think that's what the board wants. They want you to do what they say and not question it. And I believe that they are able to create situations, possibly like the ritual of becoming director, in order for that to happen. Just a thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, another really good Really, really good comment. Thank you for that. Oh, and really quick, we want to just sneak in here from our last podcast where we talked about the Chinese trailer. A listener did chime in the comment section, and they said that the trailer that they found is from Billy, I think it's how it's pronounced, is titled "The Official China Exclusive Trailer for Control Resonant." It is uploaded by the official Remedy Games account on Billy. Like I said, I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I wasn't able to do any more research into it. Honestly, just didn't have time. But we're not going to talk about it again because if it is really real, which it sounds like it is, then there's just too many spoilers. So there you go. Let's move on. Let's see. So there was a little bit of back and forth on these. If listeners want to go into YouTube and look at the comment section, a lot of good conversation in there, but we just don't have time to do all of them. So we're going to move on to some of what we talked about last time. Viewers chiming in about, we had a really, really good one, the Threshold Kids. I think we have our answer now.
Yeah.
So let's do this.
So this user commented on our rapid fire questions from Mimax to Mikhail Kasarinin video, and they had just received the reprint of the Control Art and Design book, where they talk about that there's a whole section on Threshold Kids that's very interesting. And then they have a couple bullets here. It says, first one, at one point they wanted a daycare for the employees' kids and have an episode play there, but that idea got scrapped. The next bullet is, Topher and Meg were 100% meant to be stand-ins for Dylan and Jesse, with a focus on Topher in the development. Clay Murphy says of Topher, reflecting Dylan, the Bureau had high hopes for Topher. They wanted to indoctrinate him into wanting to be a part of their organization. As his kid is that stand-in for Dylan's own life, they wanted to instill him in a desire to be with them on their side. So having Topher adopt the outfits of the Rangers made sense. And the next bullet, it says, Meg's long sleeves are meant to be reminiscent of a straitjacket as she is a prisoner there. And the last one says, finally, there was apparently a long-lasting debate about whether to give Meg a secret third eye. There's a picture in the back of the book of Meg's head where there was a third eye under her hair, but they decided against it eventually. What does this maybe mean for Jesse? Who knows?
Okay, yeah, so we were both right and wrong at the same time.
Yeah.
and so many others that, yes, I guess if you look through what they have in the game, the information that they have in the game and the way things sound and how things came to be, if you just kind of read into it a little bit more and look through it, you can tell that it was meant for more than one child, at least at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of why we said, okay, well, maybe it originally was meant for more than one child, but then it eventually just maybe went to the Prime Candidate program for just Dylan. Now, we do have an interesting video on that, though. There's only one Threshold Kids episode or TV, whatever, in the Prime Candidate program.
Yeah.
There are P6, P7 room, as anyone has played the game, they know. There's also closed cases. Now, we found this just recently. I went back and I looked at it, and we're thinking that maybe the closed cases are P1 through 5, but the episode of the Threshold Kids that's in there is the one, and we're just showing this now on the screen. It's the one where they talk about what your brain can do,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It's the, what kind of brain do you have, what you're capable of, sort of thing, in the big chair.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that all makes sense. I think that probably puts that to rest. What do you think, Jay?
I think so. Yeah, those were all very interesting points, and it makes sense about with their comment about the long sleeves with the straitjacket.
Yeah, prisoner.
Yeah, because there was that one episode where they're talking about secrets, and
she messed up.
She messed up. Yeah, she's not allowed to go outside anymore.
Right, and which is, of course, a depiction of probably something that really did happen.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So, again, though, I still, anyway, and I think that you agreed with me on this, still think that the Threshold Kids was still maybe made for one or more children.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
In the end, even though in the beginning and they cut it out, the whole thing about the daycare. It's
Mm-hmm.
so funny because I was talking to someone on X when we still had an X account, and I said, yeah, maybe they wanted to have a daycare for the employees or something. Well, it turns out that's what it was.
Yeah.
And the book that this viewer got the information from, was it the art and design book?
Yeah.
We actually have that book. We just haven't read it. We haven't had the time. But I think we need to.
I think so.
I think we need to, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big book, lots of cool stuff in there, but yeah, I mean, we just haven't had the chance to go through it, but it would definitely be very beneficial.
Absolutely. So let's see, we got the threshold kids, and we don't have a lot of time for all of these. If we want to keep it within an hour. So, but we did answer a lot of questions back in the comment section. So, but we want to at least get to one more. This one is about Dylan's failsafe, and it also brings me to something else I found in the Prime Candidate program that I, of course, just found. So, okay, so the comment was, the more we learn, the more I think that the device is consensual for Dylan and may even have been his idea. Why would they just have it lying around if they didn't know he was going to wake up? If having P6 implies, at least I think they're talking about having P6 on the device itself, at least to me, that it was created a long time ago and Dylan was probably threatened with it. But he wants to help, and if that thing is the only way they'll let him help, then he'll do it. So, yeah, I'm getting the impression more and more that it was something consensual, because, like, when you read that first document about Dylan, and that they put the failsafe on him, the one that Remedy released a few months ago.
Yeah.
It says that he's single-minded in finding his sister. So I think that that's number one. I still think if he wants to help the Bureau, obviously he does. But Jesse, I believe, is number one. And there's other reasons for me to think that, but they are from spoilery type things, so we'll just leave it at that. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think the same thing. And yeah, again, spoiler territory. There's things that we've seen, but that makes a lot of sense. That I do believe that he wants to help the FBC, but also wants to find Jesse. And if that was if maybe he had like an ultimatum or something, and at the end he's like, okay, fine, but yeah, that was a really good comment and really good insight.
Yeah, and to add to that, what we were going to talk about, what I found in the Prime Candidate program, just like, what was it, 2 days ago or something. So I was looking around and I found there is a chart on the wall in P6 room, and it's an EEG. So, you might look at it, kind of just go past it and think, oh, it's just, something a test they were doing, right? Well, I looked at it more carefully. It does have his name on it, and it shows these massive spikes. Now, they're called polyspikes. Okay, so I saw that on there. I'm like, polyspikes? Okay, so polyspikes is something that you usually see in, like, say, if you're recording an epileptic seizure on an EEG. So we're like, okay, well, there's nothing really to indicate that. That he, has some kind of medical thing. And as a matter of fact, narratively, to throw in some kind of medical condition would be kind of, I don't know, probably wouldn't work very well, because that'd be a whole other thing. But I was thinking a couple things that, because it doesn't always indicate a seizure, but typically it does, polyspikes. So I was thinking it either indicates like this abnormal, like, but natural for him, brain activity. This is huge increase in brain activity. Maybe when he is being provoked or something, I don't know, or a certain activity that they're having him do. Or they were doing, because of his volatile behavior and his out of controlness, maybe he was receiving electroconvulsive shock therapy.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping it's the former, because if it's the latter, that's pretty f***ed up.
It is, but think of all the other things that they've done to him.
Yeah,
You
it
know what I
doesn't
mean?
surprise me.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, and you might hear us say this and think, oh, that's out there, but it's not really just do some research, on the, and I'm talking, of course, to the listeners right now. You can do a little research into it and see, that that's indicative. So if they were doing, shock therapy on him, that's what they would record.
Mm-hmm.
And shock therapy is usually done for people who have behavioral issues. Now it's kind of outdated, but it's not uncommon as far as I know. I don't think it's outlawed or anything like that. I think they still use it to this day, but just not very much.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's as common as it used to be, but usually it is reserved for those that are very out of control or they're medication resistant.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, they never mentioned any medications for Dylan, but he was definitely out of control. It sounds like, to the point where maybe they felt like they needed to try that on him, maybe.
Yeah, and I honestly wouldn't put anything past the FBC.
No.
I mean, like we've discussed previously, they treated him like a petri dish rather than an actual human, and in saying that, yeah, that's pretty messed up, but it's something that the FBC probably would do.
Yeah, I agree. So, listeners, let us know what you think, because I never noticed that before. I think it fits. I think that it adds up. But it also could be, again, just a recording of his abnormal brain activity that maybe, you know, correlates with his powers or something, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Record it kind of in a weird way, like I said, the way that we record a seizure happening. But you never know.
Mm-hmm.
But I would not put the shock therapy past the FBC. No way,
Yeah,
especially with his condition. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be it for comments and questions for this one, because we're running out of time,
Mm-hmm.
and we do have a couple more things. So why don't we go ahead and move on to those? But before we move on, just one more quick thing about Dylan, because we forgot to mention this. We've been forgetting to mention this. So, Jay, why don't you talk about really quick what Jessie says in her the post game completion monologue when she revisits the ordinary dump site.
Yeah, so Jessie talks about how she's really the only one who knows what happens in ordinary, and that's interesting because of the other kids that were in ordinary and Dylan. And so why would she be the only one when there were those other people?
Right.
I mean, I know we're talking about erasing memories and stuff. Someone even put in one of the comments that talking about the Men in Black, like the
but
neuralizer.
How would Jessie know that though if kids had their memories erased?
Mm-hmm.
Unless she went back to ordinary at some point, which we'll talk about that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, maybe she got away and everyone else got their memories erased. I don't know, but yeah, that's interesting.
She did say too that she wanted to tell the story one day, and a full disclosure, all the details, no redactions, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll see that.
Yeah, and she even tried to tell authorities what happened, but no one would believe her, and that's gotta kind of suck, knowing what happened and trying to get your story out, but everyone just kind of just blows you off.
Yeah, and speaking of blowing things off, or just blowing things in general, I hope that our audio is okay, listeners, because I'm actually in a VR headset right now because the recording space we have is so small that we can't fit, it's temporary, but we can't fit 3, 4, 5 monitors in here. So I have my VR headset where I have 3, 4, 5 monitors in a productivity workspace. So I'm working with that. Okay, that's just how it is. So hopefully it won't affect any audio.
Well, that's about all we have time for, but yeah, we just wanted to remind listeners that every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific time, we release our podcast, and then every Saturday from 10 p.m., we have our live stream, and we've been playing Alan Wake 2, and it's been a lot of fun.
It has been, and it's all Pacific Standard Time because that's the best we can do. This is where we're at.
Yep.
But yeah, a lot of good conversation. A lot of it is about Control Resonant, even though it's Alan Wake, but that's okay. We're all having fun, so we hope that more people will join in because like I said, it's a good time. So, that's all, huh?
That is it.
That's all for now until next Tuesday. So, until then,
take care, Remedy fans.
Jay got it this time. Thank you.